Chapter 1. The boy who couldn't speak. Aiden was 8 when he stopped speaking. Not because he couldn't, but because he believed his words changed reality. It started with Marley, his golden retriever and best friend. Aiden was a quiet child, imaginative and thoughtful, the kind of boy who stared at clouds long enough to find new universes in them. One summer afternoon, lying in the grass with Marley beside him, he whispered, "I wish you could fly." He meant it with a purity only a child could. Not as a joke, not as a metaphor. He imagined wings sprouting from Marley's sides, the dog leaping from hilltops and soaring like a storybook dragon. The next morning, Marley was found in the backyard, lying still beneath the oak tree. A broken branch dangled above him. The vet said he must have jumped, maybe chasing a squirrel. A tragic accident. But Aiden knew the truth. Marley had tried to fly. From that day, Aiden sealed his words away. He feared them, feared what they could do. If a wish could kill, what damage could a stray thought cause? He wrote instead. He drew. He stared at people with eyes that said more than a paragraph could, and silence became his safe place. He stopped participating in class. Teachers grew concerned but soon accepted it as a quirk. His parents took him to therapists who found no disorder to diagnose. He simply did not speak. Aiden became an island floating in a sea of voices, untethered and drifting but not lost. Yet silence, he would learn, can be its own kind of prison. Chapter 2. The Teacher of Silence by the Time. Aiden turned 15. He was known in school as the Ghost. He wasn't bullied exactly. He was too enigmatic for that. People left him alone. Teachers praised his intelligence, his flawless essays, his thoughtful drawings. But he remained a mystery. A silent genius. That year, Ms. Lyra Finch arrived. She wasn't like other teachers. She wore rings on every finger and spoke like she was telling ancient secrets. Her eyes were silver gray, her voice rich and strange. On her first day, she wrote on the board, "Your mind isn't in the world is in your mind." The class snickered, except for Aiden. After class, she approached him and handed him a folded note. No words, just an eyebrow raised. Inside it, read, "Do your thoughts shape your reality, or does your reality shape your thoughts?" Aiden stared at the question all night. It wasn't just a riddle, it was a door. For the first time, someone wasn't trying to fix him. She was inviting him to explore. He returned the next day with a question of his own, scribbled on a piece of notebook paper. If reality is shaped by the mind, what happens when the mind breaks? Ms. Finch smiled when she read it. Then reality becomes fractured, she said. But it can be healed, just like the mind. From that moment, their bond was forged, not of spoken words, but of shared understanding. Chapter 3. Lucid Dreams began to change. At first they were subtle. Aiden would dream of a red bird and see one on his windowsill the next day. He'd think of rain, and clouds would form. He told himself it was coincidence. It had to be, until the day he imagined his broken watch ticking again. He had stared at it, remembering its soft tick-tick, and in that moment, he felt time move. The next morning, it was working again. Terrified, he wrote to Ms. Finch. "What if what I imagine becomes real?" Her reply the next day, "Then train your imagination." She began giving him mental exercises, visualization, dream journaling, mindfulness. She called it mental sculpting, like lifting weights for the mind. He practiced for weeks. He pictured a flame that didn't burn, a bird that didn't fly away. Slowly he regained a sense of control. Imagination, he realized, wasn't the enemy. It was a tool, a blade that could cut or carve beauty. The difference was intention. Soon, his visualizations deepened. He learned to build entire scenes, entire experiences, with his mind. The more detailed, the more real they became. It was like lucid dreaming, only he wasn't asleep. One day he imagined a field of lavender, and when he opened his eyes, the room smelled faintly floral. It faded within seconds, but it had happened. Reality, he realized, was not fixed. It was malleable. Chapter 4. The mind room. One evening, Miss Finch invited Aiden to the edge of town, to an abandoned observatory wrapped in ivy. Inside, the walls were painted with swirling galaxies and strange symbols. At the center was a round chair and a single phrase painted on the ceiling. "Everything you see is born from thought. This," she said, "is the mind room, where thoughts become things." Aiden sat and closed his eyes. He pictured Marley, alive and young, running through a field. When he opened them, he gasped. Marley was there, breathing, wagging, real. Aiden reached out, sobbing. "Is this real?" he asked. Miss Finch smiled. "Is love real? Is grief? If your mind believes deeply enough, the world has no choice but to follow." The dog faded minutes later, but the impact didn't. That night Aiden didn't sleep. He sat with his journal and wrote page after page. What am I capable of? What else lies within me? What if I am not broken, but powerful? His fear began to morph into curiosity. Chapter 5. The others. Aiden soon learned he wasn't alone. Ms. Finch introduced him to others. Mira, a painter whose brush could erase sadness. Her works shimmered with color and emotion. When she painted joy, the room lit up. Kai, a dancer who moved through time with each pirouette. He could stretch a second into minutes, or compress an hour into a heartbeat. Ezra, a musician who could calm storms with a song. His violin whispered to the wind and hummed peace into chaos. They were called mind-walkers, people whose thoughts bent the rules of reality. But there were rules and dangers. The mind, Miss Finch warned, is a garden and a battlefield. What you plant will grow, but weeds grow faster than flowers. She told them about mind-fallers, those who let fear and anger shape their world. They lost control, twisting reality into nightmares. You must balance power with peace, she said. What you feel echoes through existence. Chapter 6. The darkness. Within Aiden's powers grew. He could move objects, alter weather, even influence emotions. But with growth came fear. One night, missing his father, he wished, just once, that he could forget the man who had abandoned him. The next morning, every photo of his father vanished. His name disappeared from records. Even his mother couldn't remember him. Aiden fell into despair. He had rewritten reality with a single thought. "Why give me this power?" he screamed into the sky. Ms. Finch appeared beside him. "Because you were meant to understand it and teach others." She handed him a mirror. "Your mind is the paintbrush, the world, your canvas. But what if I ruin it?" he whispered. "Then paint again," she said. "We are all imperfect artists, but the canvas is endless." Chapter 7. The Awakening. On his 17th birthday, Aiden returned to the mind room. He sat alone, breathed, thought. My mind is not a prison, it is a portal. I am not cursed, I am capable. I do not fear thoughts, I shape them. He imagined a world of peace, art, empathy, a world where children believed in wonder, where pain could be rewritten. The observatory pulsed with golden light. When he stepped outside, the world looked unchanged. But he knew it wasn't, because he had changed. He smiled, finally understanding. Reality is not what happens outside. It begins within. Epilogue. Whispers of the mind. Years later, Aiden became a teacher, not in classrooms, but in alleyways, in forests, in whispered conversations between dreamers and doubters. He found the ones who heard the call. The children who saw too much, the adults who dreamed too vividly, the ones who feared their minds. To each, he said, "Your mind is everything. What you imagine can become. So imagine wisely." And when they asked if it was true, he would simply smile. "Isn't everything?" And the wind would carry his whisper through the world, one mind at a time.